Hi guys and girls, welcome to a new tutorial. Before we begin, I just want to say a massive thank you because last night one of my videos reached 10,000 total views, which is amazing for me because this is just a UE4 tutorial channel. I never thought that I'd get 100 views, and then that one's reached 10,000. You guys really love those magic circles and the sci-fi stuff, like fantasy and sci-fi stuff. You guys just like eat it up with a spoon. It's like, it's delicious. Yum yum. But thank you very, very much. It means a lot to me. In today's video, this is a request. Somebody wanted to know how we could do things dynamically with blueprints for materials, such as making the material change color or adding more glow to the material over time. And I'm going to show you guys how to do that. It's actually not that much of a difficult system, as long as you can set up your scalar parameters correctly and any sort of parameter inside of your material. You can change just about anything that you want to using a blueprint. So what I'm going to do is I'm first going to just make us a base blueprint. So I'm just going to right click blueprint class. We're going to go actor. I'm just going to call this, I don't know, dynamic underscore BP. Now this is just for the sake of showing you guys how this works. I'm doing a lot of hand gesturing this morning. You guys can't even see me. My hands are all over the place. I talk a lot with like body language, so you know sometimes I'm a little bit like da, 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 da. Right, so we're going to add a component to this, and this is just going to be a static mesh. I'm just going to call this, well, I'm just going to leave it called static mesh, it doesn't matter. And then inside the mesh, I'm just going to find the 1 meter cube. I'm just going to raise that up so that it's about ground level. There we are. And I'm going to quickly compile this, and I'm just going to drag this into the level so that we can see it here. Ta-da! Right. The next thing we need to do is we're going to create a material for this guy. So what I'm going to do is right click material. I'm going to call this, I don't know what we're going to call it. Let's call this dynamic. No, we're not going to call it that. I'm just going to call it test underscore m. Test underscore m, that's a good one, right? So very, very generic. Right, we're just going to leave this as a default material. What we're going to do is we're going to hold 3 and left click to get a 3 vector, which is our color. I'm going to open this up and I'm going to give it a default color. I'm going to default to green. The best color ever. If you disagree, then you're wrong. Green is the best color. I actually have a reason for that, but you know, I'm not going to explain that now because, you know, boring. Now what I'm going to do is right click this and we're going to convert this to a parameter, and I'm going to call this color. Now it's quite an easy name to remember. If you're following along, make sure that you take note of every single parameter that we're going to create here, because this is important. You're going to need the names of these later on. So I'm going to hold 1 and left click. No, actually, we're not going to hold 1. We're going to hold S and left click. For a scalar, it's quicker. I'll plug this into the metallic, and I'm going to call this metal. I'm going to do the same again. Hold S, left click into the roughness. We'll call this roughness. Ooh. Come on, you roughness. And once more, hold S, left click. We're going to plug this into the emissive color. I'm going to call this glow. We'll leave that defaulted at 0. So we're going to leave all these defaulted at 0 for now. I'm going to hold T and left click for a texture sample. I'm going to plug this into normal. I'm going to go into the texture sample. I'm just going to search for any sort of normal. So let's search for underscore m. Let's see. Which one do we want? We'll go with brick clay new underscore n. So that's a nice one. Now that's just starter content. You guys are going to be able to find that if you want to, but you can see I'm just using this for a normal as a basic way of showing you guys how this works. Now I can right click this and we can say convert this to a parameter as well. And it's going to get this really long string name here. What we're going to do is we're just going to remove all this and we're going to call this normal. So now we have 5 parameters inside a single material. Okay, now on their own they're not really going to do a whole lot. Well, they are, but we're not going to do anything with this. This material is going to stay like this, and we're going to change this through a blueprint. So we'll close that down after saving it. Excuse me. Now we're not going to change the actual cube here. What we're going to do is we're going to go into the blueprint. We're going to head back to the static mesh. And we're going to set our material here to the test material we just created. There we are, and if we go into the viewport, you can see we have this lovely, lovely, really metallic and shiny brick on this cube. So we'll compile that real quick, and then if we see in the level, you can see that it's got it on there. So let's head to the event graph. And we're going to get rid of overlap and event tick, we don't need these. But from the event begin play, this is where we're going to start building something. So from the left hand side here in components, we have the static mesh. Let's drag this out, and if we drag from this pin, we can create dynamic material instance. And what this is going to do is it's going to take the base material that's on this, or we say with the source material here, we're actually going to plug this in. We're going to say test. We're actually going to find this to make sure that we have the right one in there, so test underscore m. And then the element index is the material ID of the object. So this cube only has one material ID, so let's just quickly open up the static mesh. If we open this up, you can see here under materials, we only have one material slot. Now, the counter for material slots starts at 0 in Unreal, so the first material slot is actually material slot 0. You can see here it says element 0. So over here inside of the blueprint we have element index 0. This actually means the first material instance inside of a mesh. See, we can show this better with the player character, which I know has 2. It's got one small one on its chest. Oop, come on, open up you. So you can see here it's got 2. We have the one that's on the chest, the logo, which is element 1, and then element 0. So 1 is actually the second one in there. If we quickly change this to something so you can just see it. There you go, you can see it's changing there. Ta-da! Doing this cheeky little thing. And we'll reset to, we'll just set that back real quick. There you go. We get rid of him. We'll get rid of the cube. So we know that this is going to be the right material index. Now, this is all we need to do to make sure that we have something that we can change properly inside the blueprint. So how are we going to do it? Well, I'm just going to be using keyboard keys for now. You can assign these events to literally anything that you want it to. So a collision event, collecting something, touching it, overlapping, jumping on it, shooting it, literally anything that you can do. As long as you've got the dynamic material instance on there, you can fire this off at any point that you want to. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to play with the color. So on one pressed, we're going to see here from the dynamic material instance we have the return value. If we drag from this and we set we want to set the vector parameter value. Ta-da! So vector is because we have it's a 3 vector, so we've got the color here. If we change the parameter name, because we need to, in fact I'm not going to change the parameter name yet. If we plug this in, we have this nice value here, which is a color. So we can say, you know what, I want this to be that light blue. One thing we do need to do is we need to quickly enable input, and then we need to get to player controller. And the reason I'm doing this is so that we can actually get the controls to work. You need this for the controls to work, because by default the blueprint isn't going to be looking for any sort of controller input, because it knows that this isn't a player character, so it's going to ignore all controller inputs unless we tell it to listen to it specifically. That's what this is for. Yeah! Okay, so this doesn't have a parameter name, so if I press play now and I go in, if I press 1, you can see it doesn't change. You hear me pressing it? Slam it as hard. So it doesn't change it. But if we go into the blueprint and we change this to color, and we press compile and we go in, if I press 1 now, you see it changes the color of the brick. Yay! So that's a really nice way to do it. There's another way that we can change the color. So say that you don't quite want that to be that extreme. Somebody just messaged me, can you make a tutorial on? I didn't see what it was before it disappeared off my phone. Right, so from 1, if we press and we say, oh, come on, work with me, timeline, we can add a timeline here. And timelines are actually really, really tasty for this. We're actually going to say, we'll just say play for now. If we open this up, we actually have this C, which is a color track. If we press for the color track, let's just decrease the length to 3. we right click, add key tool curves, and now we have these two lovely things here. The top one is the color, the bottom one is the alpha or opacity. So I'm going to set this to green because I want this to default at green. And the opacity I'm going to set to 1 because I actually want this to be visible. And then if we were to right click the slider, we can get the time. So we're going to say 0. I'm just going to quickly make sure that this is at 0 as well. And then I'm going to right click, add key tool curves, and this one I'm going to set to red or reddish. I'll right click this one. We're going to put this at 3 seconds in, which is at the end. We don't need the second opacity key. And we'll compile this. Oops. Go back to the event graph. And now we have this new track 0, which is our color. If you wanted this to not be so vague, we can actually rename the track. So we can call this like color fade. We can go into here. Now this is called color fade. If we plug the color fade into the value, like so, and we press compile, then what we're going to do is, if we were to press 1, we're going to get a timeline that slowly fades between the two colors, as you can see there, which is really, really cool. So that's color. Now we can do that for any parameter that we want to. So let's play with a different parameter now. We'll get rid of this for a second. Actually, no, we'll keep that there, and we'll make another key press for keyboard 2. Keyboard 2. So now we have keyboard 2. From the dynamic material instance, if we drag out, we can set scalar parameter value. Now, scalar parameter value is any of those single digits that we had. We'll plug this in. I believe that we'll be able to do it with 2 as well if we have 2. Yeah, and then we could append the vector in here, but we're not going to mess with that for now because I don't want to overcomplicate this for you guys. So parameter name, what was the first one we had? It was metal. Now this starts at 0 by default. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make this head to 1. So this is just going to go straight to 1. So if you can see that it's doing something there, and if we press 2, woohoo. I mean, I was trying to put that at the right angle so that you guys could see the way that changes, and we can still change the color on this by pressing 1. You see that still works really nice. So we can do that, and then same as before, we can timeline this. So maybe we'll copy and paste this timeline, plug this into here, and we'll plug this into the update. We'll go in, we'll quickly get rid of delete the color fade, and we'll add a float track, which is just a single value. We'll leave this at 3 as well, and we'll add a key, and we'll say 0, 0. And then we'll add another key, which will be 3 and 1. And plug this in. There we go, and we can change the metal. So now if we press 2, it will slowly change between the two. As you can see here, it's changing. Yay! Cool. And we can do the same with the others. So if we were to just quickly copy this and paste this over, we can say we have to plug the target in to the material instance up here. We'll add a new value, we'll use the same track there, but this, instead of metal, is going to be the roughness. Now, for the sake of now, I'm just going to skip out the metallic, and we will just see what the roughness does. So you see, it's pretty standard, and then we press it, you see now it's got no shine to it. This is because the roughness has changed. Now you'll be able to see that better if we plug the metal in as well. So if we plug this back in, there we are. So if we press 2 now, ooh, you see how it's gone very, very dull? Yes. Awesome. And color still works, which is tasty. So, same kind of deal, we can do the same thing. We can drag out, set scalar, and we're just going to copy and paste this timeline here, and we're going to do keyboard 3. We'll press to play. We'll play. We'll update. We'll call this one glow. We'll head into the timeline. But I'm just going to increase this value to maybe, oops, that's not the value, that's the time. We'll increase this to about 10. And we'll plug this in to the lovely, lovely value. And now if we were to head in, I press pause, and we press 3. Oh, we start glowing. Yay! Now that's a bit quick, wasn't it? However, one thing that we do want to do is we'll go back into the material really quick. We'll just move some things around. From the color, actually hold M and left click and we'll get a multiply. And then we'll plug the glow into the B, the color into A, and then we'll plug that into the emissive. And this will make sure that we're actually, emitting the correct color rather than just white. So now, once it's finished doing its little thing, we can press play, and if we press 3, whoop, that starts to glow. We can change the color of that still, as you can see there. Nice. We can still change the metallic and stuff, but you can't really see that while it's glowing. So what we'll do is we'll quickly just move these along. So now I'm going to add a flip-flop to all of them, which I believe I explained in the last video. I think, was it the last video? We'll plug the B into reverse on the flip-flop. So the first time we press the button, it will do one thing. The second time we press it, it will reverse the timeline flip-flop, which will essentially allow us to just tween between the two things. So there we go, reverse. The reason we're doing reverse and play rather than play from start and reverse from end is because otherwise we're going to get this jump in the middle. So if I was to press 1 and then press 1 again, we can fade back to green, and we can add some glow, take the glow away, add more glow, just like mess with everything. Just press all the buttons, yeah. Okay, so we can do all that. Another thing that we can do is keyboard 4. I don't know what that noise was. Heaven forbid. And flop. In fact, we would. No, we won't flip flop this one. From the dynamic material instance, we'll drag out. Set texture parameter value. I'll plug this in. Parameter name was normal. And now we were using the clay bricks. Let's search for a new normal. What should we use? In fact, if we search for _n, probably get some nicer normals. Excuse me. Let's go with this bush. We'll make it a bush. I don't know why we're going to go with a bush, but it's going to be really easy to see. So if we press 4, boink, now you see this has now got a bush on it rather than the brick. So we can do that as well. We can change the normals, well, anything. We can change any of the textures that are on here. So you could change the diffuse, you could change the roughness map, you could change the normal, any that you wanted, literally any map, through BluePrints. As long as they're parameterized properly, you can do this. Now, we can also say, let's see, let's get rid of a lot of this real quick. So, actually, let's not get rid of it. We'll just get rid of this. Ooh, hello. Where have we gone to? Okay, don't know why that did that. Get rid of the flip-flop, and what we're going to do is, inside this blueprint now, if we go to variables, we can add a variable, and we can make literally any of these parameters a variable if we wanted to. So what we're going to do is we're going to say grab a color, and we just want, if we see linear color, you can have that as a variable, and we're going to call this color. We're going to click this little eyeball here, which makes it public, which means we can change that in the editor. We're going to give this a default color of maybe blue. We'll say blue, and we'll say press 1, change the color of it to a color variable rather than anything else. Now what this is going to let us do, if we boink, there we go, is now if we were to press 1, it changes the color to the color that we have there. If I just make a duplicate of this real quick, the eagle-eyed of you will have already noticed that over here under default we now have that color variable that we added in. So if we choose this cube here, we can make this one go to red, and we'll have this one change to yellow. So if we press play and I press 1, Oh, we're only getting the one that's changing. So he's receiving all the input. So let's quickly change that. What we're going to do is we're going to add component, and we'll give it a box collision. What I'm going to say is on begin overlap. On begin overlap, other actor is the cast to third person character, because that's the character that we're using. I only want him to change it, and we'll do that. We'll compile this. We'll quickly check out box collision. As you can see, it's teeny tiny. We'll swell him up a little bit, place him here. We'll do that. Now if we just spread these out a little more, so we can make sure we only change the right ones. If we press play, if I go near this one, it will change its color, and so will this one, and so will this one. So you can have variables inside them that make them all change to something different, and we can do the same with literally anything. So we have this value here, we can right click this, promote this to a variable, and we can plug this in, and this is now our glow variable, so we can say glow. We'll quickly delete. It's not liking it when I delete those timelines. We'll delete those real quick, and then we can make this public as well, so we can then go back in, and each one of these can then have its own glow value. So we can say this one's 10, this one's going to be 5, and this one's just going to be 1, so we won't have the yellow glow. And then we'll make sure that we actually do this correctly. So we no longer want that, but we want these up here. There we go. So those are the glow is now attached to the same as the overlap. So you can see bub, bub, bub. So they get a little more dull as they go along. That's exactly what we wanted. And we can do that with literally any of these things and any of these variables. We can even, if we wanted to, add a variable. We can search for texture. Here we have a texture. We can create a reference to a texture. We'll compile that. And here we have any texture we want. We'll actually eyeball that so that we can see it anywhere. We're going to call this normal. We'll compile. Now, the normal is down here. We'll get rid of this. We will take the normal thing. We'll stick it to the end of the overlay. We can get the normal, plug that in, compile, and now because that's exposed, we'll leave that one blank so it gets no normal. We can say we had a bush, didn't we? So we can bush that one, and this one that's normal. We'll give this one just paper normal. See what that does. So there you go. You can see this one's got the leaf to it. You can't really see it too much because of the glow, and then this one's got the paper normal, which is pretty much not very visible. But there you have it. And you can do that for lots and lots of different things. As long as they're parameterized, you can call on them inside the blueprint, and you can change them. So we'll just get rid of that real quick. Boink. Yeah, and if they're public, that means that you can change them for each different blueprint that you have here. So somebody else had asked about doing this kind of thing specifically for spell casting and setting hands to glow or be on fire or something, kind of like Bioshock. So what you do is you would have your character, so we've got this guy here, and then we would need his texture sheet, wherever that cheeky devil is. Oops. Which is here. Oof. You'd have to find out where his hands are on your texture sheet, which is a bit of a mess, and then create a nice mask so that you can choose where to glow, and then have the material instance inside the blueprint just make the mask glow, so you just have the glow along where his hands are, so you'd have to actually make a mask for the hands, so that everywhere else doesn't glow, but he does. But it's exactly the same kind of system as doing that with these cubes. So there you go, guys. Hopefully that explains quite a lot about dynamic material instances in BluePrints for you guys. I will see you next time. Bye bye.